And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Kathleen J. Lightworker. Kathleen had a near-death experience, and during her experience, she encountered 3 light beings, and today we're going to learn about it. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate your giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
If you don't mind, Can we start on the day yours happened?
Sure. I had a brain aneurysm. I just grabbed my head and fell back on the bed, and my husband called the ambulance, took me to the hospital, and then the small hospital that I went to in rural Oklahoma could not deal with a brain aneurysm. So they sent me to the city, Oklahoma City. And they wanted to fly me, but it so happened it was a pretty stormy night, and those guys won't fly if it's, the wind's blowing real hard or anything, because you just can't in a helicopter. So they shipped me by ground, and I died in the back of the ambulance. There were 3 light beings, and they reached towards me, and I knew that, that I had died when I saw them, because they were beings of light, of energy, and I could see a humanoid form, but not really actual, tell much of anything about it, because there was such a glow coming off of them. And they, one of them said, in my head said, you're welcome, and it was like I was torn. I've never seen that much love, that much acceptance, that much just I can't explain how moving it was to be able to realize that anybody cared that much for me and everybody else. It was very, very intense. But I thought about my husband and my children, and I said, oh, please, no, I can't. I have to stay. I have to be there for my kids. I have to be there so that they have a mama, and my husband wouldn't, handle it. And it's my responsibility to see them grow up. And they didn't act disappointed. They didn't act like, they were angry at me in any way. It was just this unbelievable acceptance. And, they were fine with that. And I looked down, and I realized that I was made of light as well. And then when I looked back up, all of a sudden for just a split second, it was like I could almost recognize each of those three beings. I almost knew who they were because I realized who or what I was. You know, I was a soul. And in that moment, I had given up or stepped away from my human experience, and I was back in the soul realm. And that, I mean, the next moment I was, being shocked by the defibrillators and everything, but that was, I don't know. That was the biggest, the most profound moments ever for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. When you saw your own light body, did you happen to look at your physical body laying in the ambulance?
Yes.
Did you see them working on your body?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They had put the defibrillator pads on me and shocking me. And the shock, that hurts, and that got my attention. I guess they sent me back right. If they'd sent me back a second sooner, maybe it wouldn't have, or a second later, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But the thing is they were coming towards me with a laryngoscope, and a laryngoscope is, the thing that they put in your mouth to cock your jaw back to intubate you. And I was in an ambulance traveling at a high rate of speed on Oklahoma roads. And so when you get intubated in a hospital setting, it's not a problem. But if you get intubated in a bouncing ambulance, you're probably just almost guaranteed broken teeth. And that was one of the first things I was trying to do, is I was trying to get my body, make my body be movement enough, have enough life for them to realize that they didn't necessarily need to intubate me,
right?
Because that was terrifying. So one of the EMTs had picked up the laryngoscope, and he fitted the correct blade onto it, and then they shocked me, and he was coming at me with a laryngoscope when they let me go back.
Did you say, "Hey, I'm back. I don't need that"?
No, actually, I couldn't move either side, and I couldn't talk at all. Well, I would have periods where I could speak, but I made no sense. I had the type of aphasia that it isn't a dead tongue. It is, I talk nonsense. I told the doctor that he asked how I was feeling, and I told him he would look lovely with butterflies in his hair.
That's so interesting that you were like literally on the edge physically, like you could go or stay, and they were right there, right. Like you could just go or stay.
Yeah.
It appears that when you were there, they were giving or transmitting just an amazing amount of love and acceptance. And would you even say it's like the love that you always have been yearning for?
Yeah. I mean, it surpasses even like familial love, things like that, just because I've never felt just the acceptance. I mean, it doesn't, in that moment, I knew that everything that I had beaten myself up for about, everything I've done in my life and everything I didn't do and what I did do and all that kind of thing. It didn't matter. It was just, they loved and accepted me, warts and all.
I really
And
like
that was amazing.
I really like what you said. I didn't know somebody could care about me so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my husband is just the most wonderful man in the world, but I had a hard time believing that he could love me. You understand what I'm saying?
That's
It's not that.
Is that after your experience or before?
No, it was before.
Wow.
And I was born without my left leg below the knee. My mother had the measles in the first trimester of pregnancy, and so I have grown up with not ever feeling that I'm good enough anyway.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was because I had that I could not believe their love, but I really don't think that it's possible to have that kind of that type of unconditional love. I mean, I guess you could, because I've been trying my best to recreate it every waking moment since.
Yeah.
But it's like you're too human. You've got too. There's too much in this physical body that there's all these thoughts and all these different feelings and the ambiguity about how something is, and you tell yourself that you're very, very accepting and everything, but there's always a little bit of the human dragging you down. And in my NDE, I guess they had transformed beyond what the human experience can do for you.
Do you think it's possible that in this earthly realm, it's not possible for humans to even experience the kind of love that you experienced when you were with them?
Yeah. Because I can't imagine getting it in any other. I can't imagine someone being able to demonstrate that.
Sure.
I just can't.
Did you happen to notice if you had a full leg in your light body or not?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if because that's one thing that I've wondered a lot about is, did I have that impression because I would, when I look down, I always wear an artificial limb. Did I have that impression because that's normal for me? Or does that mean, when I die, everything will be perfect? I just don't know.
From what you're telling me, you're just energy. So
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that your energetic
so it can
body is perfect.
It can spread out to encompass whatever it needs.
How have your thoughts on your husband's love for you changed? Have you accepted that he could really love you?
Yeah. That's it took me a long time to recover from the aneurysm. And I spent a month in the hospital. But that is one of the things that really blew me away, because my husband, not only did he, come and help me in the hospital, he, stepped up and took such care of me whenever I got home. And it was something, it was like I suddenly saw that, all this time he had loved me throughout. And, then it was like he was proving his love to me. And I thought, I would have to have been the most selfish person on earth not to realize that, his love for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I kind of came to terms with the fact that, yes, you are worthy of love, because they showed me that I could be loved.
Has the memory of this experience faded at all, or is it as real today as it was the day that it happened?
It's as real today as it was the day it happened.
Mm.
I just can't. Sometimes I almost think that words have lost their sacredness, have lost their meaning. We've overused them so much because of the fact that I can't find words to express what this felt like, what this was like, what this I just can't. And I don't know if it's because we no longer do like the ceremonial type words that you only use for this ceremony and things like that, or if it was just so profound, I'm at a loss.
How else have you changed since your experience?
I think that I went from being a nurse, ER nurse, to being someone. I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, and all that kind of stuff. So that was obviously the biggest change in my life. But the other thing is, I think that I look at people differently, because I don't, this happened in 2002, and I don't have a need to be right. I don't have a need to push people to do what I think is right. I don't, all this kind of stuff. I choose to give them suggestions, but, relinquish control. And it's the control issue, because I was a nurse and very regimented, that I think probably is the biggest change.
In your career of nursing, have you ever seen anybody in the emergency room had an NDE?
Yes, I have.
When it happened, I'm assuming it was before this. So when you heard that or experienced or saw the patient claim that, did you believe them at the time?
Yes. It was kind of one of those things to where that I believe they believed what they saw. but I was not exactly skeptical, but more like cautiously optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought, wow, that is so beautiful. But at the same time, there was just that niggling doubt. I mean, it was like I believed them, but at the same time, I'm like, how can that be possible? How can they communicate with those beings and do everything in just seconds? But I had a real fixation with linear time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a large part of my problem at that time.
After your NDE, do you have any new abilities that you didn't have before, like clairvoyance, clairaudience?
Yeah. Yeah. Before the NDE, I'd always been empathic because I don't know. I don't know why, but I could always tell what people were feeling and all that kind of stuff. But that was it. And after the NDE, I slowly explored more and was having random flashes of clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience and all the clairs, even the sense of smell and taste at times. But it wasn't until in 2018 that I had shingles in the ear, which is Ramsay Hunt syndrome. And it's you have pain, vertigo, ringing in the ear, all that kind of stuff. And your face also will this side, your face will sag, and you have to wait until the virus goes away to begin to heal the nerves. And that, because I'm not steady anyway, that put me in the bed. And it wasn't until actually I saw a video on YouTube with them telling me, this was one lady said that she lost a child, and that's how she put herself back together, was the tarot, was learning the tarot. And so since we don't have the most wonderful health care and mental care is non-existent, especially in rural Oklahoma, I was desperate because I'd almost developed a phobia. And so staying in the bed I stayed in the bed for 2.5 years, because it takes on average 18 months for the Ramsay Hunt syndrome symptoms to diminish and go away.
Wow.
And so I was at 2.5 years, and I was still, I couldn't, even though some of the vertigo had faded, I wound up with a broken ankle because of falling because of the vertigo. And I was just terrified. And so I bought a tarot deck, and I started. Tarot is 78 cards, and every single card deals with human emotion. And so after I watched after I learned the tarot, after I really got it, well, okay, this will tell you more. I was drowning in guilt, because I couldn't figure out why exactly. And so I used the tarot to track it down, to go back. And each time I found pieces of my life that at different times of my life, that the guilt of whatever situation was still on my back. And I tracked it down, and I got to where that I was looking at my relationship with my mother, my sister. I have a younger sister. She's 8 years younger than me. And I suddenly realized that my mother had always treated my sister like she was the be all and end all of all things. And I wasn't. And no matter what I did, I could never make her love me. And I realized that my mother was a teacher, and there was an outbreak of the measles at school, and she knew she was pregnant, and she went to school anyway because they had a shortage of substitutes. And she went and she caught the measles, and I was born with only one leg. And so her guilt was the reason why I could never get away, because her guilt was projected between her and me. Mm. And so all these things that I had tracked down with the tarot, I released them and let them go. And it was after that all these little specks of clairvoyance, little specks of clairaudience, all of a sudden, once I got the noise out of my mind, all the gifts came flooding in.
Have you resolved all the guilt?
I think so. I've done a lot of soul searching. I'm not saying that I know I did and no blah blah blah, but it feels as if it's gone.
So, are you reading tarot professionally now, or you just did it for yourself to heal yourself?
Well, now I'm reading it professionally, yes, but I would encourage any and everyone to get a tarot deck, and because mindfulness is not something that anybody should be afraid of.
Do you feel like when you do a reading for somebody, you're combining your ability of the clairs with the tarot?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. Yeah. The thing that's so amazing to me is it's like when I put down the cards, it's almost like a movie comes up, mm-hmm. and it sharpens my clairvoyance, because sometimes your subconscious mind and your conscious mind don't speak the same language. Okay. And that's the honest God truth, because your subconscious mind is so much more like a child's, or like innocent, is what I like to put onto it. And so you get flashes and images and things that don't make any sense, and then your conscious brain is trying to interpret that. And so using the tarot, because there's pictures, and I'll zoom in on one particular tiny little fragment of the card, and then it'll just explain to me what I should say with that card. I know all the meanings, but the explanation to it, what they're saying, I could never come up with that on my own, especially with a brain aneurysm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a good combination that works together.
Yeah.
Have you had any other paranormal experiences?
Yeah, I've talked to people's mother and father who have passed, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out that, because the easiest way that I don't have to think about it is automatic writing, because trying to figure out all the symbols and everything and it makes sense to the other person is really hard. So a lot of times I will do automatic writing, to where that when I am in contact with the spirit, they just write what they want to say on a page. And so there's that. And I am a remote viewer. Lori Williams I'm a student of remote viewing, because I still don't feel that I can really hone in enough to, I can give you an overall picture, but I can't pick a part of it and zoom in and all of the amazing things that they do. I still am not experienced enough for that. But Lori Williams, intuitivespecialist.com, she's my teacher, and she is amazing. Third Eye Spies is a documentary on Amazon, and I think they have it too on YouTube, but it tells about the CIA and the Third Eye Spies that they had working for them, Inigo Swan, Pat Buchanan, and my teacher, Lori Williams. She's even in that Third Eye Spies movie, but it's her documentary. It's awesome. It tells so much about the program and everything. Really, really good.
Are you a religious person? And if so, did your religious beliefs change after your NDE?
Mm-hmm. Well, my mother my mother was a Pentecostal Assembly of God kind of person, and that's how we grew up. But my husband was not Pentecost. He was Church of Christ. And we have just slowly moved away from organized religion a little bit. But my faith in God, in Jesus, has never faltered. It has never changed, really. But it's not so much my views on God that have changed so drastically with my NDE. It was my views on humans because of the fact that I realized that I wasn't a human trying to make it into the light, trying to be good enough for salvation. I realized that I was a soul in a human experience trying to navigate my way through it. And so I know where I'm going. I know where everybody's going. And it just, I don't know, that made my connection with God more complete.
Do you think that you know who the three beings are? Like if they were family members or angels or your soul group?
Yeah. My spirit guides, one of them was one of my spirit guides. And the others, I think, were part of my family, because I didn't have complete recognition. It was more like, okay, this will tell you. It was like, if you are Japanese and you walk outside and you see a whole street full of Japanese people, and there's one person there from Norway, you notice the person from Norway because all the other people look familiar to you. And it's the Norwegian that looks a little different. And that was the sense I got. I looked up, and all of a sudden they became more familiar to me. And it was like, oh, I remember. And afterwards, because of just like what see, there's some things that I can't remember. I can't remember what was said. I remember each person talking to me and it being a lengthy conversation. Mm-hmm. But whenever I got back into my body, I could not remember everything that was said. And I don't know if that's because of the brain aneurysm or if it was they talked to me and I wasn't supposed to know until later, or what. But parts of that conversation are just blanked. And so that's the reason why that I felt that it was like my father and my grandmother, because or relatives. And my spirit guide I've had with me my whole life. When I was small, very, very small, she was my imaginary friend. She appeared to me as a child, and she kept me from doing a lot of things that would probably have gotten me killed. Because I was a lot more curious and things than what was good for me.
Have you considered getting hypnotized to see if you can remember any more of those conversations or anything else?
No. That would be very, very interesting. That really would.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'll have to think about that. Wow. Because that would be so interesting. Because I hadn't even considered hypnosis, actually. Huh. Yeah, I think I would like that. I would like to know. But at the same time, why do I not know?
That's a good question. At this point in your life, do you fear death at all?
No. No, I do not.
What inspires you about your NDE?
That's a good question. What inspires me? I think the most inspirational thing I could take away from it is that we are souls having a human experience. We aren't humans trying to reach a soul experience. We all have that light being inside of us, in between ourselves, encompassing our being. And when something happens, when we die, we just step into another world.
Do you have any negative after effects from your NDE, but not physical? I mean, spiritual.
Well, it took me from a long time to get to the point to where I could say, I could talk about my NDE. It was so profound and so emotional and so big. I couldn't express what I wanted to say about it. And I thought about people, if people I cared about, kind of poo-pooed on it, because I am empathic. So if you don't believe something, and I am, especially if I'm standing in the room with you and you don't believe something, I know it. So, it was something I could not express to everyone and everything. And so I was always a very much what you see is what you get kind of person. And about this, I was so, it's not exactly closed off. I didn't close anybody away, but I kept it so personal, and it was like Gollum sitting there, my precious, I'm not sure why it took me so long to be able to do this.
How have your friends and family reacted to this?
I've had, most everybody is like, oh, cool. And, but it's then some of them are really excited and really want to know more and are fascinated. But some of them are smile and everything to my face, but I know what they're thinking, or I don't know what they're thinking, but I know what they're feeling. And so I've had to deal with that. And I finally got to where that I could say that if you don't believe me, you don't believe me, and that's okay. I didn't have to. It's just, it was so sacred and everything to me. Somebody that I care about, not thinking it's true, that I just, that it's probably just the brain aneurysm that did it, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, they're not saying I'm lying. They're just saying, yeah, I know you believe it, and everything. And that's fine. I mean, I was the same way. I had a little bit more belief than most people, but I still had that reticence. And so I finally got to the point where it was okay. It would not affect our relationship if you didn't believe me.
Has your husband commented to you how you've changed since your NDE?
Well, he commented on, after the NDE, of course my confidence was blown, because I have an artificial leg on my left side, and my entire right side has paralytic type symptoms. I mean, I have an odd way of walking, and my right arm moves differently. So I obviously don't have as much confidence. But what he said after was that this is going to sound like I'm bragging on myself, but he said, you radiate comfort, you radiate joy, and you radiate peace. So I'll take that.
Yeah. If someone wants to know about your tarot card readings, how do they find out about that?
I have a YouTube channel. It's Kathleen J Lightworker, just the name I go by. And I have I'm trying to figure out all the stuff to do a website, and I'm having, you can imagine somebody who has had the brain aneurysm I had was right smack dab in the middle. And so I have definite technology learning problems, but I'm trying to get a website as well. But I can be contacted at KathleenJLightworker@gmail.com, as well as Kathleen J Lightworker on my YouTube channel.
If people just want to contact you and ask you questions or chat with you, are you up for that?
Sure. But I do have migraines, as well as trying to see clients and take care of my YouTube channel. So it may be a day or two before I can get back to you.
All right. Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yes. You're loved. Each and every soul on this earth is loved. That's all.
That's a great message. Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.